Afternoon, everybody. I'm Chris Korleski. I'm not a very good podium speaker. I tend to speak very informally. I like to wander around a little bit. Can you folks in the back of the room see me? You can hear me all right? Got me there? Now, I don't have a very long cord here, so normally I would be winding my way back all the way to the back of the room, but I'm somewhat tethered here, so I won't be able to do that. But I'll do the best I can. Okay, it's been a couple days to go. A lot of information, a lot of great news. This has definitely been a celebration. But I know there's also such a thing as conference fatigue. So everybody just take a minute, take a breath, slow down. We're going to talk about AOCs in a very conversational way. And I'm going to talk about some of the people out there who may not have much notice that I'm going to talk about some of the people out there. And I mean that with the greatest of respect. But again, let's take a breath, slow down. With everything that's going on between the agreement, which is huge, and this conference and the numerous wonderful things we've talked about, we're going to focus on AOCs. And in GLNPO, in the Great Lakes National Program Office, we are in the process, midstream, if you will, of awarding a number of competitive grants, two of which Deputy Administrator Perciasepi announced earlier today. So as Amy Jo said, does it ever slow down? Does it ever get any quieter than this? I haven't seen it. And as John pointed out, I've been here for just over a year. Now, I'm going to try to get us back on time, so I'm not going to talk for very long. But just let me share some general insights with you about the last year. So I came in a year ago. I'd been the director of Ohio EPA, came up here to the Great Lakes, and I would be lying to you, and I probably a year ago said, I've got a lot to learn. And I have learned a lot. And mostly what I've learned is how much work it takes from so many people to make these wonderful things happen. Now, let me just take a moment and let me ask, how many federal folks do we have in the room? Federal folks, can we see hands? And I see a lot of my people who, let me take a moment, staff, thank you. You have made my first year an extremely challenging but very rewarding experience. All right, so we've got a lot of federal people. Can I see state people? People who work for state regulatory agencies, a lot of good folks there. How about local folks? Municipalities, oh, yep. I'm delighted to see you folks here. PACs, members of PACs, PAGs, outstanding. Other NGOs, okay. How about our Canadian colleagues? All right, they're here. I'd like to welcome our Canadian colleagues. Well, first, let me welcome all of you. And first, I always like to say, I like to start out my talks and finish them with a thank you, a very heartfelt thank you to all the work that everyone has done. I want to go back quickly to something that Commissioner Johnson mentioned. He used the word on my watch, or used the phrase, this is on my watch. I use a slightly different phrase, but I definitely know what the Commissioner is talking about. And I view the term as ownership. Ownership. Ownership means it's our problems, our issues. We are accountable to the taxpayers, the citizens of the Great Lakes, our respective governments, our respective managers. We own these problems. All of us own these problems. And it is up to us to do our damnedest to apply as much energy, as much heart, as many resources as we can to make great progress. And in the last year, that has definitely happened. I'm going to talk about some of those success stories and how difficult they were. And folks, we have to keep it going. But thank yourselves. But again, it's us, the people in this room. This is it. This is the team. Now, there are a lot of other folks out there who are going to help us, they're going to partner with us, but when I look at this room, I see the people in your various AOCs who are going to take the lead on pushing these forward. Now, you've heard a lot over the conference about, there have been 1987, since then AOCs were designated, Canadians have done 3, we've done 1, and we're going to talk about, and you've already heard a little bit about, yes, hasn't been a very impressive track record, but that is turning, thanks to, as I said last year, I remember saying this, work and money. We have work and we have money in abundance at the moment, and boy, do we have to use it. Now, I'm going to take another quick crack at accountability. We have to be accountable for this incredible resource of the GLRI. I view my role, a big part of my role, as being accountable to the taxpayers, to the Congress, to the President of the United States, to my administration, to make sure that we steward this money, this treasure, very well. We owe that to the taxpayers. And I will point out, there are a number of folks, I believe a couple of them are here in the meeting room today, from the Government Accountability Office, who are doing a review on the implementation of the GLRI. Now, I've met with them a number of times. They are extremely professional, extremely cordial, extremely collegial, and we have had some wonderful conversations, and many more will be had. And they will be talking with many other federal agencies and perhaps states and other entities too. But I will tell you, I'm glad they're here. I'm glad they're listening here today. I'm glad they're looking at this because, again, it's accountability. We have nothing to hide. We are going to use this money, use it wisely, and we are going to use it to get stuff done, which is what this is all about. Now, let me take just a few minutes and talk about what's happened over the course of the last year at 4 AOCs. And I'm not picking these 4 AOCs because I want to exclude anybody else. I just want to use these as snapshots, if you will, of sort of a learning experience for me about what does it take to actually get an AOC cleaned up. Now, you know, if you're in AOC land, that last December, I believe it was last December, Administrator Jackson, my ultimate boss, indicated that there were 4 OCs, that we were going to do our damnedest. We're hell-bent for leather to get 4 OCs cleaned up quickly. Now, let me give you a quick status update on how those are going. First, I'm going to talk about Sheboygan in Wisconsin. At the moment, we are optimistic. And if you think, oh, he's choosing his words carefully, I am choosing my words carefully. Because if you've worked on AOCs, you know, just when you think, we're there, what happens? Well, that's what we're going to talk about. You're probably not there yet. So I will tell you, we are very optimistic that the work in the Sheboygan AOC is going to be completed within the next several months, possibly by the end of the year. That's what we're shooting for. But again, you don't make guarantees in this business. That's what I've learned. Now, I want to ask, and I don't mean to embarrass anybody, where is Steve Galarno? Steve, are you here? There he is. I mentioned to Steve last night that I was going to call him out and point out, I had not met Steve, at least I think until last night. We had a brief chat. I want to point to Steve as an example of someone who lived, breathed, suffered, almost died a few times, trying to get the Sheboygan AOC project done. And when I refer to Steve, of course, I refer to his other members of his team, as well as the city, the county, and numerous other parties who are presumably represented here today. Let me tell you just a quick story. Things are moving along in Sheboygan. We think we're making good progress. We think we found a place to put the material. You know, we think we're there. This is great. Well, what happens when you think you finally got your act together? The ceiling falls in. That's always been my motto. As soon as you get cocky, oh yeah, we're bad, we're getting this done. What happens? Boom, ceiling falls in. What happened? Well, the short of it is, the site where we had planned to take the dredge material, when some local residents found out about it, they didn't really like the idea very much. Now, I think their view was, wait a minute, this is, quote, contaminated sediments, end quote, that you're going to bring near our neighborhood. We don't really want that. And there were hearings in the town council, there were meetings, and there was vociferous opposition, there were all kinds of issues, and I'm not making mock of the people who are concerned about this, but the point is, that was a big wrinkle in the middle of trying to get this done. Steve and the local people work like dogs to find a way around this. and in conjunction with them and all the other partners and us, and it took extra money to find a new disposal site, so we had to deal with that. And I had a conversation with Steve that I'll share with all of you. It was a conference call. You know, we've got 10 people around the table. Steve and the Wisconsin folks, they've got 10 people around the table. And the point I made to Steve was, Steve, if you can dig deep to find extra dollars to help do this locally, I'll dig deep to find extra federal dollars to get this done. They did, and we did. And it was a headache, and it slowed us down, and there was confusion, and there was issues, and there were lots of phone calls, but we expect to be done by the end of the year. Folks, again, this is talking about completing the management actions necessary that will eventually lead to the delisting of this AOC, to have that work done by the end of this year. Now, what will happen tomorrow? I don't know. No guarantees. But I look at Steve and his team, and again, and the county people and the city people, all the people who were involved, they made this happen. And this one looks like, I'll just say, it looks like it's on the ropes. But I've learned until we're done, we ain't done. And we ain't done yet. But I think we're going to be. And I just cannot thank or commend Steve and all the folks who were involved from the local end, as well as my staff who work like dogs on this to get done, and all the players that made this happen. And this one, I just think we might get there. Let me talk about Ashtabula. Is there anybody here who's worked in the Ashtabula AOC? See some hands going up? Yep, I see some of my people. Some Ohio EPA people. So, again, this is one of Lisa Jackson's targets. Get Ashtabula done. Largely strategic navigation dredging. We've also found a relatively small area of contamination that we have to go back in and look at. This one, every time I would think we were finished, oh, someone's not going to sign an access agreement. They're concerned about the language. Have a conference call. Oh, now we're concerned about the local cooperation agreement. Oh, got to have a conference call. Oh, we think we got that, but guess what? We found something over here that's going to be cost overrun. We need to find more money to do this. Oh. With all that, every day it was something different. I would go in and I would talk to my deputy, Wendy here, who keeps me alive in this position. And I'd say, so, what happened in Ashtabula today? And she would tell me, and I'd say, okay, we're going to work through it. And we did. What I can tell you about Ashtabula is the final dredging will begin, we believe, in November. Push as much, to get as much done as we can this year. We may have to get some done in 2013. We don't know yet. But again, cost overruns, unexpected contamination, unexpected PCBs in places we didn't expect, having lawyers involved from the non-federal parties, and it was one thing after another to get this done. But the people involved got it done. They owned it, they worked it, they got it done. Now, let's hold our breath, and hopefully the actual work will be completed, probably not by the end of the year, but hopefully early next. Again, completing the management actions necessary to lead to the delisting of the AOC. That's two, Sheboygan and Ashtabula. Let's talk about River Raisin. Is Patty and Rick, is Patty here? I see Rick, I don't see Patty. So this is in Michigan, and we've got all kinds of things going on in the River Raisin AOC. We've got dredging, we've got some habitat restoration, we've got fish ladders going in, we've got all sorts of great things going in that are going to get done. Status right now, looks like the dredging is going to be finished this year. Again, looks like the dredging is going to be finished this year. Got some habitat work we have to get done. We've got some fish ladders. Not sure we're going to get every fish ladder done this year. Some might have to get pushed into next. We are very, very, very close, again, to getting the management actions done that will lead to the delisting of the River Raisin AOC. That would be 3. Now, was River Raisin, did that go swimmingly? No. Cost overruns. at the last minute. Unexpected amounts of contamination, more than we had anticipated. Was it easy? Of course it wasn't easy. Every day, something new, something different. But the state folks, the local folks, my folks, owned it, did it. It's going to get done. White Lake, we believe the management actions, we have a little bit of habitat work to do. We think that's going to be done this year. So 4 AOCs that we probably won't get them finished, all of them finished by the end of 2012, but we're going to be very, very close. And on top of that, we're already turning the gaze of Sauron, if you will, for those of you who like Lord of the Rings. The gaze of Sauron is already now moving towards what are we going to do in the next 2 years? And you've already heard about 5 AOCs, which are in the pipeline to be done in the next 2-year cycle. The wheels are beginning to turn. People, let's get going. What do we have to do to get those done? What are the schedules? What has to happen? A lot of work. But think about this. Think about this. It is my fondest desire, well, maybe not my fondest desire, one of my very strong desires that by the end of 2014, we will have, again, I'm not going to use the word delisting, but we will have the management actions, the physical work done at 9 AOCs. 9 AOCs by the end of 2014. That's incomprehensible when you consider that since 1987, there has been 1 actually delisted. And you're doing the work. We have the tools, we have the talent, we have the treasure to get this done. And we have to keep working. Now, like I said, I wanted to get us back on time. It's 3 o'clock. I want to look and see if I had any other incredibly important comments that I needed to make. Just this. I will close with this. Last January, I went to a meeting of, I don't remember the formal name, I'll probably get it wrong, but I went to basically a meeting of the various Michigan PACs. And it was eye-opening to me to meet the various people and hear where they were with regard to their AOC. And we all know, not AOCs are in the same place. Some have lots of work to be done. Some, the work's barely scratched the surface. Some, as we've talked about, the work is getting done very quickly. If you're not involved in one of the 9 AOCs that I've just alluded to, we want to come for you. We want to get you in the pipeline. We want to know, what can we start doing? What kind of work is ready? What can happen? Because this isn't, we don't want to just focus on the 9 ones that are getting close. We need to keep the pipeline open, because after 2014, if things go the way, at least I hope they do, and they're not up to me, but if we keep getting the resources, my question for my staff is going to be, where do we turn the gaze of Sauron next? What AOCs do we look at? What's next in the pipeline? Because that's where we turn our attention, and we keep moving, and we keep pushing, and we keep forcing, and we clean up areas that have been sitting there for over 100 years in some cases, and finally address legacy pollution, which was first identified location by location in 1987 or shortly thereafter. It is time. Let's own this. We own this. Let's do this. And I'll close with this. We have talked about, and you've heard so many people talk about the importance of hard work and the great things we're getting done. And is it difficult? It's very difficult. People get tired. None of this is easy. You know, the myth of Sisyphus. You push the boulder up the hill, the boulder comes back down the hill. Push the boulder up the hill, boulder comes back down the hill. It can be very tiring. But what I would encourage everyone to think about, especially today, especially during this conference, is the joy, and that's the only word I can think of, is the pure joy of knowing that you have accomplished things which for years people thought would never be accomplished. Why are we in the business, if you will, that we're in? Most of us are in it because we believe in the work that we do. We want to leave a cleaner environment for subsequent generations. We want to address legacy contamination. And again, we have the tools, the talent, the technology, and the treasure to do it. Now, right now. I don't know how long that will last, neither does anybody here. But while we're working so hard and getting frustrated and fatigued and having conference calls and wondering, oh, why can't anything ever be easy? For today, let's just take a moment and reflect on the joy of these accomplishments and the accomplishments that are going to be accomplished over the next number of years. Again, let me close as I like to close by saying to all of you, federal folks, my wonderful staff, state folks, local folks, NGOs, PACs, our Canadian colleagues, our GAO people who are here, thank you. We are going to get this done. You're going to get it done. And I encourage you to sit in on as many of these workshops where they will drill down into some of the issues I talked about. And folks who haven't experienced these issues can maybe get some intel on what do we do when that pops up for us. Enjoy the conference, and thank you very much for your attention.